So I've done a lot of videos lately on narcissists and narcissism. And in today's video, I want to walk you through the stages of grief that you will go through after a bad breakup with a narcissist. And let's be honest, there's probably not such a thing as a good breakup with a narcissist, other than it's good to break up with a narcissist. Hi, I'm Jeff Campbell from DivorcedParentsClub.com, and I'm glad you're here with me. So she wasn't talking about narcissism specifically, but there's a woman named Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She's no longer with us, but she was a Swiss-American psychiatrist, and she determined that there were 5 stages of grief that we all go through, no matter what we're grieving. And they do apply perfectly to the ending of a relationship with a narcissist. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to say that it probably applies more if you got dumped by the narcissist, as opposed to you wising up and recognizing the unhealthy nature of the relationship and bailing and having the good sense to get out of it. I think that's a little bit different. So in this case, it's probably going to be mostly geared towards people who were dumped by the narcissist. But you may find some of these stages either way. The first stage is denial. We ignore the truth about this other person. We're still seeing them through rose-tinted glasses. We don't really want to acknowledge that they were a full-fledged narcissist and that we were their victims. We may even try to accept some of the responsibility. Well, maybe if I'd been a better boyfriend or husband, maybe they wouldn't have treated me that way, or those kinds of things. We're just in complete denial about who they were and what they did to us. We might even be tempted to reconcile in this stage or reach out and try and get back together again with them. And if you're in this stage, this is a really precarious stage to be in. And if they were a full-fledged narcissist, and there are some people who just have strong narcissistic tendencies who don't have narcissistic personality disorder, if they're just a person like that, maybe you can salvage the relationship if you set and enforce some healthy boundaries in there. But I really want to caution you to not reach out and try and reconcile during this stage. And then the last thing that we do, aside from maybe taking blame ourselves, is we make a lot of excuses for their behavior. And we try and justify a lot of the things that they did because we just aren't ready yet to believe that they were a complete narcissist, almost a psychopath. The next stage is anger. We're angry. We've acknowledged that they were a terrible person who treated us horribly, and we're pissed off about it. We want to tell the world how horrible they were and all of the terrible things they did to us. We finally recognize that we were abused and that they're the abuser and that we're the victim, and we just are filled with rage over it. And we're acknowledging that we were manipulated and lied to and gaslit and all of those kinds of things that go hand in hand with narcissistic abuse. But then the next stage, the third stage, is doubt. We're like, well, is that really true? I don't know. Maybe my anger was misplaced. Maybe they really weren't that bad. Maybe some of it really was my fault. And we're second guessing ourselves. We're questioning ourselves, and we downplay the abuse. And again, we kind of, like in that first stage, we're kind of trying to maybe justify it a little bit so that we don't really see them as bad as they really are. Real quick, before I finish the rest of the signs, if you like this video and you want to see more videos like it, hit that like button for me. It sends a great signal to YouTube. They show my videos to more people. I get to help more people, and you get to say thank you to me simply by pressing one little button. So thank you for doing that right now. The next stage is depression. This is where overwhelming grief and sadness of what we've lost sets in, and we're overwhelmed with the pain of it all and the loss, and we're just distraught. We're unmotivated. We don't want to do anything. Our self-esteem is plummeting too, because we recognize that, we were their victim and we allowed ourselves to be their victim. That doesn't justify anything that they did to us. And there's a reason that narcissists target the people that they do. They intentionally seek out people that can be manipulated. But we feel unlovable and unworthy, and we don't want to do anything, and we've lost all motivation to move forward. And then the fifth stage is acceptance. We're no longer pissed off. We're no longer sad. We've accepted that this is who they were and that they did these things to us. And typically this last stage is probably going to follow a long period of time of you seeking out therapy. And we've also probably gone no contact with the narcissist, or at least set and enforced some very healthy and strong boundaries and made sure they don't cross those, because they will definitely try to cross your boundaries. We now fully understand that we were their victims and that the abuse wasn't our fault. But having said that, we do take ownership of the unhealthy patterns of behavior in us that led to us being drawn to them. If we have childhood attachment wounds or that kind of thing, it's not uncommon for us to be drawn repeatedly to a narcissist. And so you may find that you've gone from one narcissist to another, maybe even multiple times. And we recognize that that's not healthy, but we still do it. And the term for that, there's a clinical term for that called repetition compulsion. And the best comparison I can make is the child of a smoker, and the parent dies of lung cancer, but the child smokes anyway, knowing firsthand just how devastating that is. And it's because they can't help it. That behavior pattern is familiar because it was ingrained in them at childhood. And even though they recognize that it's not healthy, there's comfort in the familiar. So that's why we do what we do. Any destructive habit that you have, that you do repeatedly, that you know is destructive, is probably rooted in some sort of childhood repetition compulsion incident. Probably something with one of your parents or a close family member. And so recognizing that and then taking action on that, and ideally working with a therapist on that, is the best way to get through that. You'll never stop remembering those things, but you can get to a place where those things no longer control your present and your future. So how long does it take to heal in the wake of a narcissistic breakup? Most people say that it takes a year or longer, but there are a number of factors, of course, that go into that. How long were you in a relationship with this person? How severe was the abuse that you suffered? Do they have full-blown NPD or just some strong tendencies and traits of narcissism? All of those things can have a significant impact on how long it takes you to heal, as well, of course, as how quickly you go through those stages. And are you working with a therapist and doing other things to boost your mind, boost your positivity, and put you in a different frame of mind so you can facilitate that healing? And then a lot of people ask the question, why do I feel worse after a breakup with a narcissist? Because that's not uncommon. And the answer there is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's like when soldiers come back from the battlefield and fireworks or some loud noise like that can trigger their memory of being on the battlefield and cause all kinds of traumatic stress for them. It's that same kind of effect. So anytime we're in a situation where we're meeting new people, potentially dating new people, we're on pins and needles. We're afraid to be vulnerable. We're afraid to let our guard down. It can even lead to that avoidant attachment style. Maybe you weren't an avoidant attachment style person before, but you're becoming one now out of that fear of being vulnerable and getting used again. And you're afraid to love and you're afraid to trust. And it's with good reason. The other term that I want to throw out there with regards to that is Stockholm Syndrome. That term, of course, was coined in the 70s after Patty Hearst was kidnapped by a terrorist organization based out of the Bay Area in California. But over time, they kind of converted her to one of their own members. So the person that was kidnapped became one of the kidnappers. And it took a long time and some jail time from her before she was able to kind of unbrainwash herself. You may experience separation anxiety from your ex when you're not around them. And you can feel panicked and disoriented because there was that trauma bond that bonded the two of you together. And yes, you have the awareness to recognize now, having gone through those stages of grief, that the relationship was totally unhealthy and toxic. But you still have that compulsion. You're still drawn to them and you still feel uncomfortable when you're not around them. And that will take a lot of time and ideally therapy to work through. Now, I had mentioned earlier that there's a difference between someone with full-blown narcissistic personality disorder and just narcissistic tendencies or traits. And if your ex is the latter, in other words, they just have some tendencies and traits, but not full-blown NPD, and you're wanting to get them back, that's not uncommon. I do have a video that walks you through the steps of exactly how to do that. I would not recommend trying to do that if they have full-blown NPD, but if they don't, check out this video right up here on my channel where I walk you through exactly what to do to get them back. But for now, I'll see you in the next video.